£8 billion has been withheld from communities through local authorities across the UK.
I want to see the impact of our work. I want to see how these young people and children are developing.
I was always seen as the person to find a solution. The pressure that brought also was challenging.
I still remember what it was like to live here. I still remember the difficulties.
At 14, you went through something I would say was quite traumatic.
Very traumatic.
Could you take me back to that day?
Collectivism is the only way that we're going to be able to counteract regeneration or gentrification, which I really class as localised colonialism.
Since 2010, local authority spending on youth services in England has been cut by more than £1.2 billion. That's a staggering 73% decrease in funding, leading to the closure of more than 700 youth and community centres across the country. Research carried out by the YMCA shows that 1 in 7 councils have no youth centres in their area. Yet in contrast to this, almost 1/3 of the UK population are under the age of 24 years old. Make it make sense. Well, joining me today to help me do exactly that is a man driven by an unwavering commitment to youth empowerment, racial equity, and social justice. As the dynamic CEO of award-winning mentoring organisation Mentivity, his visionary leadership has garnered the support of global corporate investors, senior local authority officials, and more recently, the British royal family. And as a multi-award winning entrepreneur, his relentless dedication to challenging and dismantling systemic iniquities has made him a resolute force for a structural transformation. I'm honoured to have him joining me today. Sayce Holmes-Lewis, welcome to the Social Corner. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Well, no, thank you for coming, because you've come all the way from London today to join us here in sunny Birmingham.
It's actually sunny today.
It is sunny for a change.
Weather. So I love Brum. So
you've got a bit of history here, haven't you? So,
yeah.
So what's your connection to the city?
Family. So my granddad lived in Handsworth. So in my formative years, I was here a lot, between here and Coventry. Obviously, Coventry, I love you, everyone from Coventry, but it was so boring. And Brum, all my cousins were here. So I've been coming up here since I was a kid.
Well, I'm trying to figure out what decade you were born. So you must have seen like the carnival and all that kind of stuff back in the day.
Yeah, I'm 42, so.
42, okay.
Yeah, so
we're in the same era.
Yeah, I love Brum. I've always loved Brum. So it's changed a lot though.
It has changed. But it's nice to get someone from London speaking positively of us, because so I've had some guests that be like, why are we here? So it's nice. It's nice, a nice change. I'm really looking forward to getting into this. But one of the things I like to do with my guests is talk about how I met them. So when you got here, I did kind of say, surprise. But we crossed paths. We actually sat next to each other. I think it was about 2022, 2023. And you were honoured at the MBCC Awards. Oh. Yes.
On the table.
Yeah, it was me.
Of course, yeah. When I saw you, like your face, I'm like, familiar.
Familiar,
I'm getting to that stage now. I'm forgetting faces, names.
That's okay.
40s. Welcome to the 40s.
Yeah, oh damn. But no, I remember. So obviously I met you and your lovely wife at the time, and you were being honoured. You were up for the award of most inspirational person of the year, and you won.
I know, right?
You won, and I just remember that sense of, I didn't know you, but I could really sense the kind of, it was a moment for you.
A moment, yeah. It got me emotional, man, because my mum was there as well. So I brought my mum with me and my wife, and it was a really powerful moment, because I don't do this for accolades. I just do this for the impact. But at that moment, I think when my name was announced, it was just a overwhelming emotion. And then obviously, I'm a crier, so that's just how I am. I'm a crier. But I remember my mum saying, like, stop crying, man, like, go get your award. But bringing her up on stage, which was really important for me. And as I said, Birmingham, we have a very close affinity with Birmingham, and her dad, my granddad, lived here in Handsworth. So to be honoured here was it felt like a full circle moment.
Yeah,
so, it's powerful.
Let's take it back to the beginning, because one of the things that's concurrent in your story, as I've kind of done some research and looking into you, is you grew up on the famous Aylesbury Estate.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
infamous, depending who you speak to.
Infamous.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say why it was infamous to me. I remember Tony Blair giving a speech with that estate as the backdrop.
1997.
1997.
I was there.
You were there?
I was right there.
I was going to ask, were you there?
I was there. I remember the whole lead up to the Labour government coming in, the whole campaign. I remember New Labour, New Danger, and it was like these evil eyes and Tony Blair and all this stuff. And obviously growing up on the council estate, we don't really have a lot of respect for authority because those in authority have kind of neglected us. And so I remember him coming down to the estate. I remember just going there, and I think I was about 13, 14. I was like, you're just chatting rubbish. I know you're not going to do what you say you're going to do, but it was for us in the estate, for that big fanfare, having the new prime minister on the estate, it was like, everyone was like, oh, let's go and check it out. But I remember standing there watching and thinking, you're not going to do what you say you're going to do. But there was an impact in terms of Labour and the Labour government, in terms of like New Deal for communities, social exclusion unit, things like that. So there were things that were implemented that did help the community, Sure Start, things like that as well, which are important. But again, over time, you realise that they don't care,
13 years old, you're standing there looking at the Prime Minister. Did you ever think that you would be in a position where one day you'd be showing a member of the royal family around what you built on that very same estate?
Definitely not. I think all I wanted to do at that age was play football. My inspiration was Ian Wright. That was my, outside of my mum, my dad, and family members, Ian Wright was the main focal point for me from the age of 8, 9. And my dad left the household around age 8, and that was a really challenging time for me. And most fathers, they leave and you don't see them, but he was in and out of my life. So it was quite unsettling. And as such, Ian Wright became that person that I really wanted to be. And my dad and I have a great relationship now. We go through things, we grow through things, and we've learned to now exist with each other and understand that we're sometimes victims of circumstance and trauma. But I've got a lot of love for my dad. But Ian Wright was the person I wanted to be, I wanted to emulate. And I was a young budding football player, and I found out my birthday was the same as his, November 3rd.
Oh, wow.
I was a striker at that age and he was a striker. I wanted to play for Arsenal. All the synergies, that's what I saw and that's what I wanted to be. And it was more feasible than anything else. So I never saw the journey that, Allah has willed for me happening and coming to fruition. But I'm honoured nonetheless. 13
years old, you've grown up on this estate. What's your relation to that place? Like, how do you interpret your surroundings? How do you interpret life at that point of life, coming up to that time? Was there, you mentioned obviously your relationship with your dad. What were your aspirations apart from just football? Was there anything else? Like, what was shaping you at that time?
Survival. I'll be real, it's survival. It was, look, Aylesbury Estate, I'm not going to paint any false pictures. There was a lot of negativity on the estate, and there was a lot of things that were going wrong in terms of substance misuse and crime. But at the heart of it was a very connected community, a very diverse community. And that's what kept a lot of people going, because I remember if my mum and dad were running late from work, our next door neighbour, Maggie, would bring us in for food, and that's what it was like. We all looked out for each other. And yes, we had our differences, especially with the children on the estate, a lot of clashes, a lot of fights and stuff, but it brought people together. And I think that we were almost pitted against each other by the powers that be. But the Aylesbury Estate, even though it was some sort of kind of experiment in terms of being built out with someone's architectural fantasy, let's do this.
Walkways in the sky and all this business.
But it was beautiful. I love the Aylesbury Estate, and it's part of my DNA. And it really shaped me in terms of the way that I think and the way that I see the world, because as I said, at one point it was the largest housing estate in the whole of Europe. And it's like a maze. If you're not from the Aylesbury Estate, you'd just be lost. It's daunting. And when you figure out how to navigate the estate, and especially going home from school or getting to different places, there was 100 different ways to get home. So it just made my mind, it was wired differently in terms of there's not one way to make it. There's not one way to get out of the Aylesbury Estate or to make it in terms of being successful in football or whatever it may be. So my aspirations were linked to football primarily, but as I got older, I realized that it was more about educating myself in those areas of expertise that I was developing at that age. and just learning about my environment. And that's what the Aylesbury Estate taught me.
How's mum? Tell her I said hi. She at work? Yeah. All right. Wait there, you cut your hair? Oh, it looks like you cut your hair off. I was about to say, life-changing moment. Catch you in a bit.
So you know everyone more or less in the area then?
I wouldn't say everyone, because the work that we've done here has been more attached to schools, and when in my formative years I was coaching a lot of people in the community, so I know a lot of them through that way, and then their younger brothers or sisters.
Yeah.
But what with Mentivity now, the challenge is rebuilding that community.
Yeah.
Because I'm not hands-on, I'm behind a laptop most days. So if I'm at youth club, then I can build like relationships with the children and young people.
How do you find that kind of, because somebody was talking to me today about the curve of when you're kind of rising in your organisation, but you're coming further and further away from the ground level and the grassroots. How do you, have you managed that well, or is it something you miss? Or?
Managing, everything requires balance, and even this pushing the organisation in the way that I need to sometimes requires me to be extremely detached to get things done. But what I'm trying to do is make sure that I'm around the team enough and also around the children and young people, which is important, because I want to see the impact of our work. I want to see how these young people and children are developing and build relationships. And I'm the uncle now, so I get a bit of respect because of that.
I think it's all right when the man gets called uncle. Someone tried to call me auntie, and I just almost went Bruce Lee on them. I'm not ready for that. I'm not an auntie.
It's respect. Auntie is respect, but I embrace the uncle tag. I'm like, cool, but I can still work. I'm fitter than you. I can do that. I'm always like trying to challenge them and stuff. But
so this is your block.
So yeah, I lived here from 0 to 5 years of age.
Wow.
You've got Stefano here.
Yes, hi Stefano.
So yeah, 0 to 5 years of age. My 4 siblings were born
in
on this
here.
block.
So you
Sorry, 3 siblings. Sorry. So I wasn't born here. I was born at Guy's Hospital because the first child has to be born in hospital.
Is that a rule, or is that just?
Yeah, that's normally the rule. Yeah, but my mum went in home birth. So the first child is normally at hospital.
It still very much feels like you're a protector of the block in many ways.
Yeah,
how does it feel standing here, like looking at it? And I mean, you walk past here all the time.
Yeah,
so.
It's a part of my DNA, and I think this is what keeps me so grounded, because I still remember what it was like to live here. I still remember the difficulties. I still remember the lack of inspiration.
Yeah.
Because when it was raining, you look out here, it was so dismal. It was so grey block, grey, and it wasn't great. But if you look at the facilities, you had the garages, you had storage up there, the houses were spacious, but they, up there was a laundromat. You had shops. Like, it was a great community, and it was a diverse community. Yes, it had its challenges, but what I remember of the Aylesbury Estate was that community, and I still want that community feel. And when you are faced with regeneration gentrification, what that does, it decimates, it guts the culture of the community.
Right.
We don't want to lose that. We want to remember who we are by using this digital archive to really showcase where we've come from, where we were, and where we want to go.
Where we want to go, I like that. I imagine you looking out your window, this wasn't here at the time.
No, but this was my school.
This was your
reception,
school?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So now we're looking at the football pitch that's been newly...
The Nelson, so Reece Nelson, Arsenal, he funded this himself. He went to Michael Faraday.
Yeah.
When I first came across him, formally at the age of 8, he was at Michael Faraday. He was part of my London Youth Games team. And we've been in each other's lives ever since. But he's funded this himself, even the football goals, the equipment. You've got Stefano and Scott there, who again been with Mentivity since its inception, pretty much from the beginning.
Wow.
And this is a really key component of engaging our youth, because football's the main thing, which they see as a vehicle to get out.
Yeah.
But this is a hook for us to do the work with them. I finished that! Finish that, bro! When I show you my block, it was like an arena, because you had all the big, these stands.
Yeah.
And what will happen, you hear a ball being kicked in the pitch, because it was obviously, not many people had footballs, and you'd be like, Mom, can I go out? And then quickly you see there's 30 people down there playing a game, a tournament, so. I
mean, I feel a little bit envious, because the sense of community that you're explaining is not something I personally grew up with, but at the same time, the challenges, I do have to ask the question, how did it get like this? What happened?
The council didn't invest. There was no long-term plan to keep this going. They were actually looking to knock this down from late 90s and 2000, and it took nearly 20 years for some parts of it to get knocked down. but it's actually 15 years behind schedule.
Wow.
In terms of the regeneration.
Yeah.
And that whole time that's happening, the price of the land's going up and up and up. So it's more valuable for developers. But then for people that have social housing, can you afford to live here now? Of course not. The beauty of where we are at Mentivity House, all of that social housing. Yeah. But the rest of this, it won't be. So we've now got to push for that and make sure that the community's not gutted out. And as I said, this is a working class community and good people come from here. Amazing people come from the Aylesbury Estate. So anything I ever do, I always bring people here to the Aylesbury Estate because I'm so proud of it. Yeah. You remember on Channel 4? Yes. When they used to show, it was that block. They used to show the Aylesbury Estate, it was that block.
Is that what merged into the Channel 4
site?
Yeah,
it was horrible. Remember? Gosh. And everyone was like, oh my gosh. And we were fuming as a community. Yeah. But and it showed it in a really negative light. And that's what the media does, unfortunately. Yeah. But that's why I'm trying to showcase that there's beauty in...
And own the narrative.
Yeah, reclaim the narrative, reclaim the rock, and reclaim it fully.
That speech that Tony Blair gave, famously, he talked about it being an example of a sink estate. You know, these were estates that were categorized by high levels of social problems, particularly crime, as you've mentioned. But a lot of the people I meet that have come from those particular backgrounds just seem to have so much more hunger and seem to have gone that much more further. Did that do something? Is that what happened with yourself?
Yeah, without doubt. I think my formative years on the estate used the use of football as a vehicle to build community was important for people from my background, you know, my age, and you know, I'm from Barbados and Jamaica, but I said we had an eclectic mix of diverse people from different communities, you know, from Eastern Europe to you know, India, you name it, that you had people on the estate. But I think for us, we felt that the world was against us, so no one expected much of us. So therefore, anything that we did was a bonus. Was that because you were enclosed in that one space? I mean, did you come out of it, or was it? Yeah, I did. I was very, very fortunate in the sense that my mum always tried to broaden our horizons through primarily education, first and foremost, but through sport. So we used to go to Peckham Leisure Centre a lot. My mum was very athletic, so was my dad as well. So sport and fitness was very, very key for us. But we also travelled a lot in terms of the UK, going to different beaches, and with my auntie Paula, it really broadened our horizons because we were exposed to so much in a young age. But at that same point, as you said, we were still enclosed, so sometimes you were quite insular in terms of your outlook. But at the age of 13, we actually travelled for the first time internationally on a plane to the United States, to Florida, to see family. So my mum's side's Jamaican, you know, Jamaicans are everywhere. So Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach, flying to the United States at the age of 13, just totally opened up my world. Right. And I realized that there was more that I wanted for myself, and travel became a very, very important part of my latter years as well. So yeah, it was, I love my childhood. I wouldn't change anything because I learned so much about myself. I'm the eldest of 7 at that point. I was eldest of 4. So there's a lot of responsibility on my shoulders, and I was always seen as the person to find the solutions and lead in the right way. But the pressure that brought also was challenging as well. So I tried to really figure out what was best for me. But growing up in the Aylesbury Estate was also challenging because of racism. On the actual estate? Yeah, on the estate, because we were not far from Millwall Football Club. So very notorious back then in the 70s, 80s, 90s. And on match days, a lot of groups of white men will walk through the estates and just hurling racial abuse at children, pretty much. And anyone that they look different from them. So that was something which, from a very early stage of my life, I realized that this was a problem. And especially after Stephen Lawrence, this was a major issue. But I didn't have any coping mechanisms or methods to actually counteract racism rather than get angry. Because emotional intelligence was low. Yeah. So many people, or young people I speak to from certain communities, that's it. They don't have the language to express the feeling. So it comes out as the anger. And for yourself, you know, that 13's pivotal age, but then so is 14. Yes. Because at 14, you went through something I would say was quite traumatic. Very traumatic. I didn't realize how traumatic it was until later on, but yeah. Could you take me back to that day? Yeah. So I went to a school which was out of the borough. Well, not out of the borough, it was nearly out of the borough. So the schools closest to me were Walworth Academy, or Walworth School, and Jeffrey Chaucer, which is now Arc Globe Academy. And I refused to go to those secondary schools. I said to my mum, I'm going to school where I want to go to school. And I was actually offered a scholarship to Alleynes, but I turned it down. I was like, they're not my people. I don't feel comfortable. I'm going to Kingsdale. So I chose Kingsdale, which at that point was probably one of the worst schools in South East London. We had security guards. That's how serious it was. Yeah. So there was actually a stabbing of a young man in 94 and he lost his life outside the school. And that was something which still didn't deter me because that was just the reality of life, unfortunately, growing up where we grew up. But I wanted to go to Kingsdale. So year 9, after floating around in school, not really knowing what I wanted to do in life apart from football, I was heading back after a football match with some friends and went to Gypsy Hill train station, not far from Crystal Palace. And got on the train as normal to go to Peckham, and then the train wasn't moving. And then this officer came on and pointed at me and was like, get off the train. And I'm like, what for? I haven't done anything. Just get off the train before I take off the train. And I was like, look, mate, if you tell me what I've done or supposed to have done, then I'll get up, but I haven't done anything, so I'm sitting here. He said, look, you better get up. So I went up and spoke to him and said, look, tell me what I'm supposed to have done, and then, we can have a discussion. And mid-discussion, he just dragged me off the train and started assaulting me, punched me, hit me twice in the abdomen with his truncheon, handcuffed me, dragged me on my front with the handcuffs all the way down the platform, up the stairs to the ticket hall. By this time, all my friends had followed and all people that were just, bystanders in the public. And it was literally 1 minute I'm talking and the next minute I'm getting beaten up by an officer and I hadn't done anything. I just coming home from school. And he arrested me and then he de-arrested me because of the kind of public outcry and everyone's going crazy, and then just left me to go home. And then I was just like, wow. But I was always warned by, elders in the family that these things happen, but I never thought it would happen to me. To this day, I've got no answers, but I had to deal with that.
Did he get investigated or?
So reluctantly, I told my mum as I got home, put the key in the door, and I was like, if I don't tell her, someone's going to tell her. So I told her, and then she was obviously shocked and outraged. And then we pressed charges, and as a naive 14-year-old, I was like, all right, we're going to get justice. And then 7 weeks after, we pressed charges, like going back and forth to the solicitor and stuff, and literally got a letter in the post from the Crown Prosecution Service, the CPS, and the police saying that there wasn't enough evidence to prosecute the officer. But we had CCTV footage, had access to that, 12, I think, independent eyewitness accounts. And it was thrown out. And then to add insult to injury, 8 weeks after that, I get a letter from the police and the Crown Prosecution Service summoning me to court to answer to charges of assaulting the officer that assaulted me.
What?
Yeah. So 14, I had to go to Camberwell Court, which is not far from me, Camberwell Green. And I remember being in my school uniform. And that's probably the most daunting experience that I faced at that age, because I went into a courtroom where everyone looked at me like they wanted me to go down and be guilty. And I'll never forget that feeling, because I remember feeling so powerless and realizing in that moment, if I don't take responsibility for my life right now, and when I leave this courtroom, other people are going to take responsibility for me.
Up until that point, from what you've described, yes, there were challenges, but it sounds quite, you sound quite a happy, jovial young man.
Yeah.
And then this experience happens and there's no justice. But you're also the same guy that was looking at Tony Blair, aware that what he might be talking rubbish, but identifying that he is recognizing some stuff of what's actually taking place. So I sense a consciousness in you at that young age.
Yeah, definitely.
What did that awake for you?
Everything that probably my family had instilled in me in my formative years, if I'm honest. My family, very well read. My mum's side, all educators, from schools to university lecturers. My dad's side of the family always had very deep, conscious conversations, as well as my mum's, around the state of African Caribbeans and how we see the world. Malcolm X, especially was prominent in terms of discussions. Bob Marley as well. Music's very revolutionary, and that was played in my house every Sunday, every single Sunday. So that revolutionary spirit, which definitely comes from my mum, was instilled in me through my mum and her outlook on the world, but through music and through Bob Marley. And I was always someone that really wanted to stand up to injustice from a young age. And if I saw someone doing something they shouldn't be doing, I was the first to say something or challenge them. hence why I had lots of fights and stuff when I was younger. But that's just the nature of growing up on the council estate. You've got to survive and you've got to look after yourself as well as my siblings. You know, I had to do that. And going to new schools and all that stuff. It was like I had to challenge these things and actually create a safe environment for them, sometimes to the detriment of my well-being and who I was. But I had to do that because I was seen as a protector.
Was that a scary thing to be doing? Because I mean, it's you know, you see those skits sometimes, and there's a guy out with a girl, and the girl's like, you know, you try it with me, and my boyfriend will beat you up, and then he runs off. Like, but you know, to have that level of responsibility to as protector, especially as your dad's not in the home at that point.
Yeah.
How do you cope with that at such a young age?
I didn't. It was a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
It was a lot of pressure. And as I said, rather than say that I failed, because I've actually just finished reading the book called Leaders Eat Last. And it says, rather than posing it as failure, say it as you fell or you're falling, you know, and you have to get back up. So I didn't fail because I didn't give up, but I just kept pushing and kept trying to see the world in the best possible light, even though I was a victim of so many different things in my formative years. Yeah. But I just tried to keep going, and that resilience I got from my mum, you know, seeing her look after 4 children, raise us single-handedly. Like, how can I give up if this woman's not giving up in the most dire situations on the Aylesbury estate without the support that she should have had and that we should have had? So therefore, it was instilled in me to just keep going and keep pushing and just keep persevering. So, you know, in that moment when I left the courtroom, I remember just saying, this is it. This has happened for a reason. That's my mom's favorite saying, everything happens for a reason. And I realized in that moment, I just had to use that anger, that frustration, and the way that I saw the world and plow that into myself. And that was the only thing I had control of, because in that courtroom, I had no control. And I realized now that I'd been wasting so much time just floating around. But also, I think there was probably a little bit of trauma around my dad leaving and growing up in South East London as a young black man. I've seen things that I shouldn't have seen and experienced things I probably shouldn't experience. But I just really used that to shape me and really get closer to my target, which was to play professional football. And I used that as a vehicle, and using that activity to say, right, now I'm going to educate myself, because that was important in what I want to do, but also at school and get my GCSEs. And I just set myself a target. I gave myself 5 years to make it pro at the age of 14. I said, by the age of 19, I'm going to sign my first professional contract. I told everybody that would listen. My mum, my auntie, everybody.
How did they respond?
Some said, all right, cool, fair enough. Some told me that, you know what, maybe look at going to college and doing A-levels. And I'm like, no, like, don't project your, you know, insecurities around achieving things on me. So I would be like, yeah, whatever, because I was so adamant I was going to do it. And I believed in myself so much. And I believed, you know, inherently in myself that this was going to be something I was going to be able to do. And I just kept pushing. But yeah, after that, leaving the courtroom, I just focused on school. And I left my friendship group, my friendship circle, and I just kept focusing now on education. And that year, in year 10, my friends all turned against me, which showcased they weren't really my friends. Right. So I realized now I had to be isolated and focus on myself. And that was pressure. That was real pressure. But after that year 10, everyone respected me.
But you know what? We used to have, so all these blocks were connected by bridges. So that block here, Wendover, that's the small one. Right. That's the big Wendover. Yeah. You had a bridge that across. Connected that. So all the estate was connected by bridges. Wow. This is where the Tony Blair speech happened. As I said, there. Now they've locked it all off. Oh my gosh. So it was right there. I was standing, I know I was standing here at first, and then I was over here. But I remember just looking up at him like, who's this guy? So this is Wendover, small Wendover, and that's big Wendover. Right. And behind here is where I spent a lot of my time in my formative years at a football pitch. So is this where the dreams came about for playing professionally, or? Yeah, well, mainly because of, as I said before, Ian Wright, but then going out and being able to practice what I saw on TV and score goals. That's actually my block up there. Oh, okay. So four rows in is my block. So my mum would see us when she would call us, like, it's time to come in. She would come stand on the balcony. We'd pretend that we couldn't see her, keep on our heads down. So this is the pitch here. So we spent a lot of time here. A lot of broken windows as well. We didn't have the fencing because, you know, shots and stuff like that. But yeah, it was beautiful. And it didn't look like this when I was growing up. What they did do is they invested some money into it, brought it up, but then they let it go again.
They've got issues with squatters here.
Yeah, squatters, that's a massive issue. You've got a lot of people that have sought asylum that are here, and they're being exploited by rogue, fake estate agents who are letting out buildings to them for extortionate fees, and they have no right to be there. But then also organised crime and gangs are using these for their benefit, which is a shame. But I mean, look, who did that?
Listen,
that is actually impressive.
That's a crop circle. Because how did that get up there? I mean, it was definitely well thought out in terms of what was here, but the long term wasn't thought out.
As with most areas, the local authority and the governments, they will divest.
Right.
They won't invest in communities. So when these things happen, what happens is you see the health and well-being of the population decline, and then the mental health has a massive impact, and then substance misuse, and it's a horrible cycle, and which is not by our design. It's by the design of the authorities and government and policy. A lot of my friends that I grew up with in school, we were connected via trauma, shared trauma. Many of our dads, weren't around, or we've been victims of different things. But I just decided to move away, and most of my friends were Peckham boys and either affiliated or in other gangs or whatever it may be. So I just decided I was going to focus on getting my education, and that wasn't cool. So everyone was like, "What, you think you're better than us?" So it just kind of, my friendship circle just lessened, and then other people were like, "Oh, he's not friends with them anymore." And it was kind of like, right, let's just target this guy. So it was challenging. Year 10 was challenging. It took years for me to realize I actually got bullied. And I was like, me being bullied? Like, I'm from South, doesn't happen. But it happened, and it actually allowed me to push forward.
This is like a complete 180 from what you. I mean, you didn't sound terrible or anything, but definitely not in just mischievous, but definitely not in this mindset. That courtroom really served up some justice in your own way of thinking. How are we on the journey to football at this point?
So that summer after the courtroom incident, I just was focused on finding a team, and I came across Abdullah Ben Kamal, my first real mentor and coach, and he was running a football club called Red Lion, which is in Bermondsey. And a lot of the boys were from Peckham, from Bermondsey, from East London, and he grew up in Peckham on the Glebe Estate, eldest of 6 brothers, and he actually started coaching football to keep his brothers off the streets and be a good role model for them. And that just extended over the years to other young people. And then, Red Lion, I came across him. I was like, right, got to find myself a team if I want to play pro. And a couple of my friends played for the team. And I just focused on using football to learn on the pitch and learn off the pitch, and just putting yourself outside your comfort zone, which that's what I was doing, by just doing the right thing in school and being isolated from my so-called friends at that point. But as I said, it just really just kept pushing me, concurrently in education and on the football field. And I just learned more about myself, and it just allowed me to experience success. Because I never experienced success. I never won anything. I never really achieved anything in my formative years that was celebrated. So winning trophies on the football pitch was like, wow, I like this feeling. Now getting my GCSEs, I like this feeling. Oh, now I'm going to college. Oh, I like this feeling. And then stepping up to play semi-pro for Thamesmead Town for another mentor, Stan Etheridge, amazing guy, Millwall fan, coincidentally. But again, he broke that mold for me in terms of white males in terms of authority, because he was a scout at Millwall and he was also my coach and manager. But he looked after me and my friends in a way that I never felt that could be done by a white man in terms of looking out for us. So he just kind of shattered that illusion, especially after that incident with the police. So by that point, at the age of 18, I'm playing semi-professional football in the Kent Youth League, and it felt more viable to get closer to being professional. And that period is a very successful period for me, and a very transformative period for me, because I realized I could do things if I applied myself and I focused. And it was powerful.
Who would you say you were at that stage?
At that point, so 19, I was actually offered a scholarship the year before by Howard University, who came over from Washington, DC, and they played on a tour. They played a representative side that I was a part of from the Brixton Summer League, but they played against Chelsea, Liverpool, West Ham. And before we played a university team that came over from the States, and they were predominantly white boys, because soccer in the United States is a very expensive sport, and you have travel teams and you have to have money.
So when they came over Howard University, we had no clue that they were all black, and they were all from the Caribbean. So they were from Haiti, Jamaica, like Bermuda. And we're like, where are these black guys coming from? So we played against, but it was a proper game, like really like amazing game. And we won that game 2-1. And the coach was a guy called Keith Tucker. And he said that he was also Bermuda national team manager. And he said, we're offering 2 scholarships to the 2 best players. And never in a million years did I think it was going to be me and my best friend, my centre-back partner, Hariba Kamara Taylor, who's one of the most fantastic human beings and football players I've ever had the pleasure of sharing a pitch with. But they offered it to both Rebo and I. And we were like, wow, this focus now that we've had to make it professional, now we've got this opportunity to go for a full ride scholarship in the United States and live in a different country. But that was August 2001. Then we got September 2001. Obviously 9/11. We're like, nah, you guys keep your offer for a year. We're gonna stay here. So I actually dropped out of college to start working. Rebo was working as an investment banker for Barclays, and we just started stacking for our opportunity. And at that point, we were playing reserve team football for Croydon Athletic. And then I set up a tournament on Aylesbury Estate, a 5-a-side tournament. And then there was a scout sitting on his Range Rover watching us play in this tournament that we created. And then he's like, you're both good. Like, would you travel for football? I'm like, yeah, of course. And then 6 weeks later, we were flown out to the Republic of Ireland, to this town called Mullingar in County Westmeath, which is the centre of the Republic of Ireland. And then after an hour of training, the chairman, a guy called Martin, and the manager, Leroy, who became another mentor and role model for me, they offered us a professional contract on the spot, which was unreal. So 5 years was that target I set myself at age 14, and 19 years of age in 2002, I signed my first professional deal. So
I feel like I want to clap. I mean, it's a long time ago, but did you feel prepared for that moment?
I did, if I'm honest, because it's what I always wanted, and I was ready for that. Like moving to another country. At that age, we're so resilient, we're so focused, and I was so focused on playing professional football. It didn't matter where I went. Right. I was already prepared to go to the United States. So going to the Republic of Ireland, which was just a not even a 50-minute flight away, I was like, by all means. But it was challenging because we moved to this small town, Mullingar, and we're walking through the town and people saying good morning and hello, and I'm like, I don't know you. But in Aylesbury Estate, if you walk around and you say hi to people, they'll be like, this guy's mad. Like, and you become a victim or a target. So yeah, living on an island was amazing. A really great experience. The culture, I love the people. I try to go back to Ireland as much as possible, but there's a real synergy there, especially from the Jamaican side, because the Jamaican, it felt like I was in the Caribbean. And,
they sound like us.
Yeah, exactly. And that amalgamation of cultures brought Guinness Punch, the best of two.
That's true.
So
that's true.
Amazing.
I forget that's where it's come from.
Yeah.
that aspect of masculinity and understanding what it was for yourself. What else kind of played a part in understanding who you were going to be as a man?
To be honest, there was different influences. My uncle Neville was an amazing influence. That's my mum's brother, and he was always there, always on hand to give me the discipline and have the hard conversations, but also just show me what it meant to be a man, in terms of raising a family. And yeah, I love him. He passed away in 2019, but his legacy definitely lives on through us. And yeah, I've got so much respect for him and how he navigated life. But I think what I saw in the media, it also gave me a totally different outlook towards masculinity, because what it showed is that you could act out, you could be aggressive and all these different things. So it was quite confusing. So that emotional intelligence and regulation that I should have had wasn't there. And also because of that trauma that I experienced with the police and obviously my dad's relationship, that did cause a few issues, but I just had to try and improve. And I think that was the first iteration of me becoming a young man.
I want to kind of find that bridge now between your time playing football and your journey to your organisation, to Mentivity, because you played football for how many years?
About 2 years played in Ireland, and I went to Romania. So I played for a team. Yeah,
so again, a whole new experience.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, Romania was beautiful. Whilst I was playing football in the Republic of Ireland, we actually had to coach to promote the game of football or soccer in Ireland, because football wasn't the number one sport out there. Soccer wasn't the number one sport. It was Gaelic and it was hurling. So we had to go into schools and actually coach. So I actually started coaching from the age of 16 and refereeing games. So I had a bit of experience, and I realized that I coach in South East London, but I'm coaching in Ireland. I'm building rapport. And that's where I started thinking about coaching now and supporting young people. So playing football, going back to, England in 2004, I just started focusing on working with young people. Started coaching, got my FA Level 1 badge and started getting my qualifications, and that was through my coach and mentor, Abdullah Ben Kamal. And he set up a football club called Greenhouse Bethrin, or Bethrin Football Club to start with, and it became one of the largest football clubs in the UK. So he upskilled a lot of us through training to become leaders on our community and give back via coaching. And that's where I really started focusing on working with young people. Then I got into schools and education as a teaching assistant, and then I realized, I actually like this. So concurrently, whilst playing semi-pro and then working in the community, I was just growing into so many different ways.
So how did the seesaw kind of tip the scale? How did coaching become
came to an end? But injuries, that always happens. Broken dislocated my ankle 2004. Then I had a meniscal tear in 2005. Then I had a kidney disorder called nephrotic syndrome, which nearly took my life in 2005, early 2006. So and I was at my lowest point. And then I had my son, Cameron, in 2006. So he just turned 19, 21st of July. And when I had Cameron, I realized that football was long. It wasn't about this. It was about actually providing support for him and being the best possible person for him. And I wanted to create safer communities for him to grow up in. So I just started really intensifying my work in the schools and coaching and just giving back to young people who didn't have role models or father figures, like I did. I was lucky enough to have that supported me through my journey, and I wanted to be that for them. So I just kept pushing on that. And then age of 28, I decided to go back to university. My son was 4 at the time, and I studied youth and community work with sports development at the University of East London. And I was working full-time for Southwark Council as a full-time coach, studying full-time, part-time semi-pro, part-time youth work, raising my son, and trying to enjoy life. So really productive time, 3.5 years, got my degree. And whilst I was at University of East London, I actually created the whole philosophy for Mentivity through my essays. And so I was like, right, now I've got the theory to match up with what I do practically every single day. And this is what I'm going to do.
This is what I'm going to do. Well, let's talk about Mentivity then, because this is the famous organisation. It's done so much and it's helped so many. I was looking at some of the stats and I was like, it's better to come from Sayce. But in terms of the young people and the focus, tell us what the organisation is about and where it is now. What are you doing now?
So primarily it's a mentoring organisation which really seeks to use the passions of young people and mentor them through that passion. So whether it is they want to be a chef, they want to be a lawyer, they want to be a football player, utilising that and saying, we're going to mentor you through that and look at the transferable qualities. It's much the same as I did through football, using those transferable qualities from that passion and linking it back to your education. Not just about school, it's how you support yourself as well in terms of educating yourself and just getting them to be receptive to learning, which is important. And we just try to raise their aspirations through the work that we do and have people from the community that really understand what they're going through and showcase that love and support, because by investing that time, young people receive that as love because they don't always get that at home. So we go into schools primarily and do a lot of one-to-one mentoring and supporting them, but also we've got programs of delivery on the empowerment program, which is a health and well-being program where we use Muay Thai mentoring, sound healing, yoga to actually kind of support young people. We also have another program called Contentment, which is using content creation to really focus on the issues that young people are facing, and they can create a documentary whilst they're learning around those issues. So it could be anxiety, it could be gentrification, it could be cyber safety, online. So all those things that we're talking with young people about. So we're just trying to get them to empower themselves through their voice and through their own mediums. And we're just a vehicle for that change to support them. So.
Hi, how are you? Can you sign in for me, please? Oh, today?
So, Sophie, you're the strategic project manager, is that right?
Yep.
What does that involve? What do you do here?
So my role is a sort of over everything that's kind of project-based. So I look at things like our transition to our charity status and working with our trustees. I look at funding applications and trying to get some more funding into our charity side, but I also look after different community projects as well alongside Daniel, who's our community engagement lead. So trying to see how we can use this space for the community, engage more members of the community, our young people, our local elderly residents, and just really make sure that Mentivity House is a place and space for all. Once I found out about Mentivity online, it really spoke to me in terms of the place that you can go and have relationships with trusted adults that really encourage you to be the best version of yourselves at a young age. And I personally was very lucky in that I joined sports clubs and music clubs when I was younger, and I felt as though the adults that guided me through those have really kind of set me on the path to where I got to and who I've become as a person. And so I really recognised that power of mentoring, especially in areas like this where these community spaces have been lost over the last few years. Mentivity as an organisation are brilliant at that. We won the National Mentoring Awards in 2019 for Mentoring Programme of the Year. And so when I saw that and I saw the work that Sayce and the other founders have done and the whole team really and their commitment to kind of supporting young people, it just felt like a really natural fit, and it was just, it really spoke to me as somewhere that I wanted to be.
Well, speaking of space, this is fantastic. Do you mind showing me around?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so welcome to Mentivity House.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is obviously our reception area where we sign our young people in for when they come to youth club, and all of our events and activities that we have here at Mentivity House. And then all of the artwork that you see are young mentees that we've worked with in the past for our various different programs. And then the space that we're coming into now is called our arena. So this is our main space for all of our kind of community activities. So as you see today, we've got our summer youth club going on. We have games and board games and activities over there. We've got our table tennis. In this room here, this is called our Nexus. As you can see, this is our quiet room. So for any of our young people that might need a bit more of a chilled out space, this is often when we have our arts and crafts, colouring, drawing. We'll often do scrapbooking as well during youth club. And when it's not youth club, this is our office space.
Okay. The Mentivity House is actually built into the Aylesbury Estate.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So we were able to get into the building before the final construction was finished. So we're the first organisation to be using this space, which is incredible. Yeah, and we have this area here set up. We work with another organisation who run an esports club, which is very, very popular. They'll be coming at 2:00 today, and they set up a banks of screens, and the young people can play games like Mario Kart, Roblox, like all of the different games, FIFA, very popular one, all the different games. So we set that all up here.
And I noticed the studio there.
Yes.
Is something taking place?
Absolutely, yeah. So the studio is a really exciting project that we're working on, which we're going to turn it into a podcast studio. So it's not quite ready yet, but watch this space. And the idea behind this is we're going to properly kit it out with excellent sound and video equipment. And we're going to run podcast workshops from the studio so that we can teach our young people how to create their own podcast episodes so that they can use their voice to tell their own stories and to develop those oracy skills, which are so important. And we're also hopefully going to be able to rent out the space as well to generate more income for us as Mentivity, so that we can keep running things like our youth clubs.
So that's kind of the social model.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And we also rent out this space when we don't have youth clubs. We are able to rent out this space for a number of different events. So again, we're trying to be self-sufficient in terms of funding, so we can use the spaces that we have to generate income to support the programs that we run for free for our community. On a weekly basis during the term time, at the moment I'd say we have about 35 to 50 young people come through on a Monday and then on a Friday as well. So they might be the same, but they're sometimes different on a Monday and a Friday. And we are really trying to increase that to reach more young people, as many young people as we can. We would love to engage. We do really well at the moment engaging the 8-year-olds to about 13, 14-year-olds. And we'd really love to increase engagement from the sort of 14 to 16 plus. So we're looking at our programme of support we can do for that slightly older age group in terms of employability skills or access to apprenticeships, just making them ready for that next stage, whatever it might be. And we do really well with engaging our boys, and we want to do more with our girls. So we did run a girls only dance club. That's just come to an end, and so we're hoping to restart that again from September, from the new term, so we can engage more of our girls in different activities. And then also the HQ, which is where we run our respite provision. So that's during the week, during term time, we have a specialist education centre, which is alternative education for our young people who are at risk of exclusion from mainstream education. And that's a really core part of what we do. We have a brilliant education team who've a lot of experience in alternative education, and they provide really holistic support for young people who are struggling in mainstream education for a number of different reasons. Instead of getting excluded or sent to one of the kind of the other alternative provision centres in the borough, they come to us. And they continue with their education, which is really key, because often once they are at that point, they have completely disengaged from education. So when they come here, we re-engage them in their learning and their classes. We work really closely with the schools to make sure that we do that. But we also engage them in other kind of life skills and aspects that will really help them to regulate emotions so that they're ready to go back to school. I think there's about 16 of us at the moment, and some of us are based sort of more here in the office, and then some of us are more based in schools. So during term time, we'll be in school during the day running mentoring programs and working with young people doing one-to-one sessions. We work also with the Youth Justice Service in Croydon, so we've got a lot of one-to-one sessions specifically with young people who have been involved in the Justice Service. And yeah, there's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on. I mean, there's so much to take in, but I think the main thing that I'm seeing is it's a place, it's a safe haven for young people, especially at a time where the youth service has been cut, back to almost bare bricks. Not having the spaces for young people to be able to come and safely engage and socialise. So to have this facility here is just absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're doing a great job.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's a great organisation. Like I say, I've only been here for 3 months, but the people who work here just really make the organisation what it is, and the commitment that everybody has to supporting young people, and also the wider community. In supporting young people, we talk to parents, we talk to grandparents. Engaging the elderly generation is really important for us too, because they're often, two voices in society that are least heard, as our young people and our elderly. And we want to really reignite that intergenerational conversation to develop that sense of shared history, shared stories, and identity as well. I think that's something that is really challenging in these kind of regenerated spaces, is we lose that sense of history and community, and so that's something that at Mentivity House we're really keen to rebuild, is a sense of identity and belonging within this community and for our young people, and like you said, make it a safe place they can just come and be young people and have fun and relax and engage in a safe way.
I can see you're definitely doing that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for showing me around.
Yeah, absolute pleasure.
By the way, because I feel like a ping pong.
It's going to come flying. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Absolute pleasure.
At the beginning of this our conversation, I mentioned some of those statistics. 73% decrease in funding, and over 700 youth and community organisations closed. But then here's Mentivity. What's your experience? Because I can read off the numbers, but living it is a different thing. What's your experience of those statistics? How's it affected your area? And how are you counteracting that with a lot of the work that you're doing?
Yeah, it's really dire kind of outlook in terms of youth and community services, and they say 1.2 billion has been taken away. If we actually calculate the true cost to the economy, we're talking probably 10 billion.
10, wow.
That's what I believe, because you're thinking about the violence, the investment that you have to kind of invest in communities retrospectively, the damage to the community, health and well-being, like all these things reduce productivity. If you look at health in terms of NHS, and they're picking up in terms of mental health services, and there's a real lack of support in our communities, and there's a real theme of neglect.
I read it left, right, up, down, sideways. I still can't make sense of why they've made such severe cuts over the last 10 years. I mean, you're a bit closer to it in that way.
Austerity always targets the things that people need. And when we're talking about need, we're not talking about statutory like healthcare, but again, we've had 30 odd billion that's been reduced in NHS, education, the same thing. So what we're seeing is that sports and arts in times of austerity is always the first things to go. Always the first thing, because they're not seen as important, because they're not impacting the children and the people of the people that are running the country, you know. So that's one of the main issues, but we have to lobby, we have to fight for that. But what I'm seeing now is higher levels of deprivation. I don't like to say people are deprived, they're underserved and they're under-resourced. And this is about economic equity, because we need to understand that if we don't own the land that we're living on, or we don't understand the landscape, then how can we lobby, how can we attract investment for the services that we need, or how do we make sure that the local authority or government does what we need? Because this should all be statutory. We should have ring-fence funding for young people. If they're the future, then why are we not investing in that future rather than spending money on infrastructure and things that aren't going to benefit the wider community?
Yeah, that narrative of young people are the future, it gets pumped out a lot from Number 10, but when we're talking about things like this, it makes me wonder, are they talking about certain groups of young people are the future? Because it seems as though that there's, you know, mass sectors of community that are just completely being ignored. But you're doing a lot around lobbying that voice, and you've mentioned the word economic equity. You talk a lot about equity. Can you open that picture up a little bit more for us, and help us understand, what do you mean when you're talking about that?
So just going back to your point around the children of the future, if you don't invest in the present, there is going to be no future. And that's the key thing, is that we need to understand that by allowing these cuts, and my friend Justin Finlayson, who runs United Border, he calls it cuts crime, because this is a crime against communities.
It's true though.
And it's the truth, it is the truth. And economic equity is really about your economic standing in the community, which is being totally transformed through regeneration and gentrification. You know, walking up here, I saw the amount of changes. And this is, I used to go to Digbeth coach station, you know, in my formative years, and I remember what it was like, especially at late night. And understanding now that this investment into communities isn't designed to benefit us, because we're not driving it. So this is now around social value, which is a real key word right now. But there's a lot of social value organizations that aren't from communities, that are white-led organizations who can see opportunities to make money based on our plight. And it's very exploitative, which is the same as capitalism. So for us now, capitalism isn't going to save us, but we've got to understand that we've got a part to play in extracting that capital into our communities. So when we're looking at regeneration and looking at Section 106, which is basically money which should be invested in communities, because the investments that's come in to then support communities through that transition, that money in terms of local authorities over the last, I believe, 2 years, £8 billion has been withheld from communities through local authorities across the UK. 8 billion.
Wow.
So imagine out of the 8 billion, 1.2 billion goes back into youth services. Then we get back to the levels in 2010. Then we take another 2 billion to really now get youth services where it needs to be. We can actually start to invest in our communities, but we're not part of that process. We don't understand from the inception phase, when they do consultations, what we need to do as communities to make sure that we get what we need to actually allow us to flourish. And rather than being in survival mode, we need to be very strategic.
How does this happen on a strategic level? Because you've broken it down in terms of what's missing. How do we correct it?
So it's about really coming together as collectives. You know, as collectivism is the only way that we're going to be able to counteract regeneration or gentrification, which I really class as localized colonialism. It is social cleansing, it's ethnic cleansing on a borough level or a town level. And we need to, as I said, strategize by getting people that understand what's actually happening and coming together as a consortia and saying, right, what are my strengths? What are your organization's strengths? And coming together and saying, right, when we're now going to go to the local authority and say, this consortia has done consultations in the community and we need this, this, and this, a set of demands. And being very clear on those demands and saying, this is what we now need in terms of investment in these areas. And before you decide to go into planning and consultation, you consult us first. Then we consult the community.
Right.
Then as consultants, we also get paid. and get some of that money, which should be ring-fenced for community, by doing the actual work, not just handouts. So there's Section 106, which is a very big, important part of this process. But also when the construction is complete, you have the construction infrastructure levy. So that is now money which is released by the construction companies to communities, and the local authority should be via the communities when they're completed. So my ward in Faraday, which is Walworth, where I grew up on the estate, that's the most underserved and the highest economic deprivation in the borough. So really and truly, the money that we're getting in the other areas, other wards, should be helping the Faraday ward to uplift itself and get to that point. But we're talking in the range of 9 to 10 million across some wards, which should be now spread out against other wards to support them. So that's the challenge now, by upskilling ourselves and getting people who understand these things from a local perspective, and then how we share that knowledge via Mentivity House through information, advice and guidance, and actually getting young people to think about how they can lobby and use their voice as well in conjunction with those that they live at home with, the elders, and it's really important. So that's what we're focusing on right now.
I think when you were talking, one of the things I'm thinking of is this is a national problem, because we're talking about 73% decrease, but it's not just happening in your ward. It's here. We're all seeing the effects of it in communities who are underserved, as you said, and the impact on that on crime and youth behaviour, etc. Are you working in any way or shape to nationalise that lobby, or is it more of a local thing?
So it's a good question, a very good question. I believe that we have to have a hyper-local approach first. And when I say hyper-local, I'm talking about wards, specific wards that local authorities have created, and looking at how we can actually extract wealth from the public sector, local authority, and the construction sector, especially with communities that got high levels of regeneration, and making sure that we have a model which is backed by legislation to make sure that money is filtered into communities through the right channels. Not just councillors who go into a room and say, oh, we're going to give it to this organisation, that organisation, because they're aware of them. It's about really saying that this is a community-led approach and a consortia-led approach, because we know our problems the best. We know how to remedy those problems. It's not that we don't know how to do the work. We're doing the work for free out of necessity. Because if we don't, then our community is going to be even worse. So therefore, that expertise needs to be paid for. When you go into rooms, people always want to know, oh, so Sayce, what do you think? I'm like, well, I'll let you know, but what's my rate? That's the key thing. Yeah, because you can't keep extracting from my experience and my expertise and go and put on a report, and then you go get 5 million to go and do what you want to do as a white-led charity who doesn't know what's going on in the community. And that's what we're seeing with those bigger charities. So I think it has to be a hyper-local approach first, having that blueprint, getting other areas to actually take on that blueprint, and then coming together and saying, right, now we're clear on what our model is and what our need is for our hyper-local communities. Now we can look at the data and say, we can present this to government and say, on a national level, this is what we need in these areas. So from this parameter to this parameter, when it comes to healthcare, or it comes to sport or education, the money is there. We just don't know how to access it.
My auntie used to work in the city.
Right.
So we used to routinely go and pick her up from Bishopsgate. And my mum used to give me the A to Z and be like, Sayce, navigate. I'm the navigator. So I'd navigate. I was sat there back then. You had children that just read the A to Z.
Knew how to get
and
there.
that's what I did. I would get us to Bishopsgate, and then I realised this was the financial centre. And I was like, oh, there's the wealth. So I knew that. So you had the Tower 42, which used to be called the NatWest Tower. Then, you had Bishopsgate, then you had the Gherkin, all these other things. So when you realise there, and then Canary Wharf, which was being built in the late 80s, early 90s, I saw that build up from the ground pretty much. And I knew that was the financial centre. So I always knew that there was wealth, and we're close proximity to wealth, but we didn't have that.
So let's talk the future then, because you have very clear visions for Mentivity House and Mentivity and what you see for this area and where it's going. And what is that? What does that actually look like?
How we shape our community, our new community, and gentrification is something that happens to us. It's not something that we have an influence over. And we need to have an influence, as I said, from the inception to the completion stage. And that's really important for us. So Mentivity House seeks to be the incubator for that. And by preparing young people to understand the landscape and the world that they're growing up in, that they can best advocate for themselves, as I said, through ethical social media content, but also through other means, and how they lobby, how they attend hustings, how they hold their local councillor to account. It's understanding that political landscape, that local authority landscape, the landscape that we see from a government perspective, and how they can influence that change and hold the people to account that are here to serve us. We're not here to serve them. And that's why Mentivity House is so important, because it's a culmination of my life's work, but my mum's work with me. What she's done for our siblings, what she's done for this community. And it's an extension of that. So that's our gift to the community, whereby we want this to be something that continues far after we're gone, for long after we're gone, should I say. And I want to keep pushing that narrative, but we want to make sure we get the resources from those corporate entities, from the local government, from the local authorities, and saying you have to provide statutory monies to allow us to achieve this, because this will save you money in the long term, but also it's a model of progression, and it will show other communities, wow, they're doing it on a micro level. How do we build this out? How do we do this in Birmingham? How do we do this in Liverpool? How do we do this in Manchester? And by giving inspiration, having a hyperlocal approach, we're now ready to connect on a level where we understand, and now this is what we want to do as a collective. That's the vision.
When do you think this, if you were going to give it a date of completion, what would that be?
In terms of the work?
Yeah, like
it won't be complete. This is ongoing work. I'm not going to see the benefits of this
in my lifetime.
Not in a way that I really want to.
Yeah.
Because, as I said, gentrification is a localised colonialism. We need to dismantle the systems that continue to oppress us across the board.
Absolutely.
And it's not just about, racism. It's all the isms, but it's about discrimination. It's about oppression of the working class.
Yeah.
The UK, and especially London, has been well versed in creating permanent underclasses through gentrification, through displacement, through tax systems. We now need to understand their game. This is nothing new. It's tried and tested method. So what are our tried and tested methods? How do we counteract this? Because this is a battle. This is a battle of wills. It's a battle of who can do what's needed for us, and we have to do that.
Sayce, I feel like we just had the next Tony Blair speech.
Don't call me Tony Blair.
No.
Call me, I'll be the hood mayor. Call me the hood mayor.
The hood mayor.
I want people to understand that you have to be you in what you do. And by being you, you will build a level of respect, of authenticity, but you'll build trust. There's a lack of trust in these communities. That's why we have the issues that we have, and we need to heal and we need to rehabilitate. And my life over the last 5-6 years has really been about healing and rehabilitating myself from the traumas of society and the world. And if I can do it, if Brother Malcolm can do it, if all these other people can do it, you can do it.
Absolutely.
Now, this is what I used to see 19 years of my life.
Yeah.
The weather, if it was raining, it'd be horrible. If it was days like this, it'd be like, wow, I can attack the day, but I have a foundation now which can't be influenced by the weather and other outside influences. The only influence I have is God, and I have faith in God, and I keep pushing.
Amen. With everything you're talking about, I just see you in that leadership position. And I think so often it's almost harder for Black entrepreneurs, Black leaders to be leaders. And the reason being, there comes with this, almost like this savior
complex, for sure.
It comes with it.
Yeah.
It's like, you made it out, you did it, take us with you.
Yeah.
And you go from having this, just Sayce, gonna play football at 19 to, I now carry the whole Aylesbury Estate and the whole of Southeast London.
Yeah, Southeast London. Yeah.
Talk to me about that, because that's not easy pressure.
It's not. It is challenging. It's one of the most challenging things I've ever done in my life, because when you're leading an organization and you're advocating for a community that you grew up in, week in, week out, people do see you as that savior, but I'm not a savior. I'm someone that's just trying to create a vehicle for change and a philosophy that other people can become leaders in their community and actually take control of their narratives and those stereotypes that have been placed upon them and use that to their benefit. Because coming from the Aylesbury Estate, as I said, you had to be forthright in believing in yourself, even when others didn't believe in you. And I say that to young people all the time. If you don't believe in yourself, how are other people going to believe in you? So that leadership, you often critique your own leadership, and it is challenging because sometimes you're going to make mistakes and people are going to hold you to a higher level of accountability than they hold themselves sometimes. But that's part of the joy in it, you know, because sometimes you got people thinking that you can't achieve certain things because you originated from the Aylesbury Estate. But although that's part of my DNA, it doesn't define me. And one of the things that I do through my leadership is I continually reinvent myself, and I'm continually learning.
Tell me how do you take care of Sayce in this journey of yours?
It's a lot. But first and foremost, I place my faith in Allah, and my faith is very, really important. 2 years ago, I became Muslim, and it's something that I was always keen to explore from a young age, because as I said before, Malcolm X was someone that's very prominent in terms of conversation in my household, and seeing that film, I think I was at age 10 when it came out. It was so powerful for me because I've always seen myself as the underdog because of where I grew up. I've always seen myself as someone that will speak out against injustice if things go wrong, but also being accountable as a leader, which is what Malcolm X was. He wasn't afraid to say that he got things wrong, especially in his formative years, you know, when he was Detroit Red and, you know, Malcolm Little, but then how he evolved, you know, through the Nation of Islam. And after that, when he embraced Sunni Islam, where he made his pilgrimage to Hajj, and he says, I've got this all wrong because I was too divisive. You know, Islam doesn't teach racism. It teaches a global ummah and people coming together. So I learned a lot from Brother Malcolm, and understanding that my faith underpins what I can and can't achieve, and what I can actually conceive in my mind, because sometimes you conceive certain things in your mind, but Allah is the greatest of planners. So my faith has been really important, and getting up, my 5 prayers, you know, getting up for Fajr, which is your first prayer of the day, which is important. I love working out, you know, physical, you know, activity is important for me. Football is not so much a key theme now, but going to the gym, staying healthy, fit, and challenging myself in that way. Having time to relax with my family, which is important. Travel.
Have time.
Yeah. You've got to make time for them. You've got to make time for them. Travel is important. As I said, growing up, you know, my family gave me opportunities, and I've traveled so much. I actually decided not to buy a house in my 20s just to travel. You know, that's been the best education for me, you know, so I've learned a lot.
Just going back to this idea of the community around you and how you take care of Sayce, because you're around the community, but who's the community around you?
Good question. My mum, she's amazing. You know, my mum's my greatest inspiration. She actually works for Mentivity. She's the head of education, been a teacher since I was born, pretty much. You know, she's been my teacher, but she's qualified as a teacher over 20 years ago now. So she's phenomenal in terms of her support for me. As I said, my wife, my son, my best friend, Rebo, like, that's my brother, you know, so I've got people that are close to me. But over the last 5 years, as the growth of Mentivity has allowed us to get into different realms of society, I've just got an amazing network of people that have helped me on this journey. So Dean Forbes is someone as well that's really supported me. He's actually Cameron's uncle, so I've known him a long time. Yeah, Dean has become a really prominent presence in my life over the last 5 years, and obviously his career doesn't need any introduction, but he's a phenomenal human being, a phenomenal man, a phenomenal husband, father, and I've learned a lot from him, and he's been a great uncle to Cameron. But on the back of that, you know, a lot of people within his network have become friends with myself and my wife, and Tim Campbell as well, and his wife Jasmine. Don't forget Danielle, which is Dean's wife. She's a phenomenal auntie to Cameron, but a great friend. Then we got Lee and Shireen Anderson, and then we've got Davina and Jay. So we actually call ourselves Team Ubuntu. So the Ubuntu crew, man. But they're beautiful because we're newly married, Nat and I, and they're OGs in this marriage game. So
I was going to say, because you've been married for what? For 3 years?
No, so we got married in November 25th, I better remember the date, 2023. That was our nikah, so that was our Islamic wedding. And we did that very small, intimate, 22 people. It was beautiful. I love that. And that was our declaration of our commitment to each other, to Allah. And then we got married on the 4th of August last year.
Oh.
So it will be a year coming up in literally, a couple of weeks.
What are the plans?
I'm just going to enjoy it because actually my wife's birthday is on the 3rd. So she turned 40 and then we got married. So she turned 40 on the 3rd of August last year. And then we got married on the 4th. So it's a dual celebration.
Now, I know what Ubuntu means, but not everyone that's watching knows what you're talking. What is this Ubuntu that you're talking about? Explain it for us.
So now you're putting me under pressure now because now it's not even in my mind. So I'm going to ask you now.
Oh, no.
What is it?
So Ubuntu.
Let me Google it. So it basically means circle, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It basically means circle. It's an African principle.
A principle of, you're looking at me.
Hold on. Let me get.
Do you know who came on and talked about it? David Shosonia, and he talked about it's like the spirit of kind of togetherness and working together and putting that into the community so that you can thrive.
Exactly that. So it's community cohesion basically. So essentially
But shame myself.
A lot of pressure, right?
Yeah. Oh
no. But Ubuntu, it really encompasses what we do for each other because the way that we support each other and we celebrate each other's wins, but also in those moments where we do fall, we're there to support each other.
You've kind of answered the last question, but I'm going to ask it you anyway because I have to. But your social corner, and it doesn't have to just be Mentivity. It's that corner of society that you are taking up space in, that you're making change in, and that you still want to see progression in. And it might be like you've talked about hyper local. Hyper local, is that how you put it? Yeah. It might be in that vicinity, but it might be global, who knows? But in the next 5 years, how do you want to see your social corner evolve?
I want to create more Mentivity houses, that's for sure, but not created by me, but created by other people in the community that actually understand their communities. So that's leadership, as you said, that create even a leadership program for people that understand the problems in their community and actually want to implement changes. Mentivity, for me, as I said, will be a way of life more than just being a physical space. When we're talking about reclaiming the block, it's also reclaiming those narratives within, knowing that you're worthy, that you're worthy of love, that you're worthy of success, that you're worthy of education, that you're worthy of a warm home, without damp, like you're worthy of these things. And I want people to understand their self-worth, which is most important. So I think the philosophy for Mentivity going forward over the next 5 years is how we can create spaces that can be reclaimed by communities that need them, but also how we lobby in and around education in terms of the style of education that we're experiencing. It's not for us.
Yeah.
So it's Eurocentric, it's not Afrocentric, it's not practical enough.
Yep.
So that's what we're doing with our respite provision, our alternative educational provision, which my mum, heads up, but having Mentivity schools, which would be important for me, more Mentivity houses to support communities, but also making sure that there's a sustainable model, which is backed up by investment from local authorities and government, but also innovation in how we use our own narratives to create wealth in our communities in a way that is distributed in a way that people can benefit from, not just the capitalistic model that we have right now, because that's not going to help us in our salvation or our rehabilitation, because capitalism by its very nature is exploitative and it's underpinned by racism.
Yeah.
So capitalism and racism go hand in hand. So
very much so.
We have to disseminate what it means to be part of these systems and create our own systems which benefit us from that hyperlocal standpoint, and also how that falls into a national outlook or maybe a global outlook. So yeah, that's what I see for Mentivity, and really showcasing that through content creation, tech, and the vehicles that we're seeing now, because it's an opportunity now to create wealth. We're in the midst of the 4th industrial revolution. So why shouldn't young people be thinking about a career in tech? Because tech's going to underpin everything, just like my son. So apprenticeships are going to be important because that's going to create economic equity. If we now have opportunities where we can actually access opportunities which are going to make us money, and we can bring more money to the household, then that changes the whole dynamic in terms of how you see the world.
I believe this 5-year plan, this 5-year projection, I'm going to say prophecy, because the last 5 years, prophecy that you did came, and I'm really looking forward to seeing this take root, take shape, take place, and I'd love for you to come back and tell us how you're getting on at some point.
Definitely.
But for now, Sayce, thank you so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Pleasure, thank you.
Loved it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Oh.